Okay.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciated all of your communication and willingness to engage and listen. And I really appreciated your language around addiction, being sensitive to the stigma and the different approaches towards communicating about that. That was really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I tried really hard not to say abuse. This is actually something a colleague of mine, Kenneth Tupper, talks about, as our language is very problematic. There's spousal abuse and animal abuse, and all the ways that we say abuse, well, it's the thing we're abusing. We're abusing the spouse, we're abusing this. But then when it comes to drugs and alcohol, it's drug abuse, animal abuse. Like, are we actually abusing those things? No, we're abusing ourselves, but we can't say self-abuse because self-abuse has a problematic history around it being used as a term for masturbation for a long time. But he seeks to. I actually have this little card here right on my desk. On one side, it's like nonviolent communication. I don't know if you could see this. Let me jump over. Nonviolent. And then on the other side is his spectrum for describing substance use, which leans from beneficial into non-problematic, into problematic, into dependent. None of it is abuse. All of it is different forms of substance use. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's also like not referring to people as addict because you're labeling someone. You can say a person who's suffering from addiction because people can suffer from it. And Chor has a great way of saying it. He says, I went back into lesson.
Yeah.
I really like that.
It's not the fact that they fucked up or they're an addict or all that mumbo jumbo. It is more of like they just went back into lesson, and that's what I did when I relapsed. I went back in a lesson, because I didn't want to tell myself that I fucked up or I'm a fuck up. You know what I mean? Like
that's problematic in holding yourself down.
Very problematic. Yeah. And so it's like I just basically went back in the lesson. And that's another thing that I learned from my uncle, who's African American, and I'm telling you, it's all within the bloodline. So it's the things that we say to ourselves definitely carry weight and definitely mean something, especially if you're saying it to yourself, because even if you're saying it out loud, you're also saying it within.
Yeah.
You're saying it within. Once you're saying it within, you're just like, you're holding that in more than you're saying it into the universe. So
as Muginda would say, you're telling it to your soul.
You're telling it to your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the soul knows, and so it's like, the soul will just sit there and just be like, okay, I'll let you just fucking go ahead and do that shit. You can go ahead and you're going to piss me off. But if I'll be right here when you're ready to come back. Hopefully. Sometimes the soul just says, well, you don't give a fuck about your life, so why should I? And I'm out.
Yeah, sometimes they have to do soul retrievals.
Sometimes, and or they die.
Yeah.
So,
actually, the soul dying in a person's definitely hits home. I lived at the Occupy camps in Calgary. I was one of the coordinators for it, which always made me feel like after that, CSIS was like monitoring my every move. But CSIS is like Canada's CIA. But one of the things that really hit home, it was one of the first real exposures for me to the impact of cultural trauma, especially up here in Canada. One of the big ones that we can point to is the residential schools, which was where the First Nations people were taken away from their culture.
The boarding schools.
Yeah, and besides not being allowed to speak their language and being completely divorced from it, they were also physically assaulted, sexually assaulted, killed, all these things. And then when people came back, if they ever came back, then they were an outsider everywhere. And so at the camps, there was a big issue with First Nations people with severe substance dependence and a lot of really destructive behavior. A lot of destructive behavior, and what seems like a death wish to some degree. And in some conversation with somebody that I was privy to, somebody made the comment that what you're failing to see is not that it's not that they're killing themselves or that they want to die. They died a long, long time ago.
Interesting. Yeah. That's one good thing about Canada that I like, is that they did apologize to the indigenous people.
On the surface, yeah.
On
but
the surface,
you
right?
dig a little bit deeper and you realize like that
Start.
was just lip service. Yeah. But yeah, it's a start. It's a start.
It's a start. Yeah, you're so right. And that's, another reason I see so many people on the street that have obviously been like systemic racism is a part of what they're going through, or genocide and slavery. And I just want to make iboga accessible and available to anyone who wants it, to anyone who chooses it. It would be really helpful for healing the relationship to the soul. Definitely. If our long-term goal is to start a church, because we think that's how the entrance is, or how I sense is going to be the right point of entry into the country for Iboga. It's not going to be medical. It's not going to be drug detox. It's going to be through a religious, spiritual, legal structure.
Right, like the Santo Daime or the Native American Church.
Yeah. So that's a longer vision, but we're working on it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's call it close. Also, everything after things were done, I keep recording in case something great comes up, and with your permission, it'll get released as a bonus content for my patrons.
Cool.
Sure. Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
Yeah.